Good morning, landscape lovers. I'm Felix from Holygon, and today we'll meet Landshape's 10 brushes. Let's break them out like so. And here's grab a brush, raise brush, sink brush, level brush, bank brush, slope brush, smooth brush, noise brush, mesh brush, and zone brush. And the only brush we don't have is the toothbrush. So let's see what they can do for us. First, we'll make a small terrain. So here is just a face. It's a single face. It's about 100 meters across. I'll select that. I'll make a terrain by selecting it and then clicking form like so. And then I can hide the input. We've got something here, and to give it some more definition, I can, let's noise it. So I'll select it and click noise. And we got just a small noise going on there, just to give it some more definition and character. I'll add a skirt, like so. We can see a little bit better. So before we get into the action, maybe I should say a few words about when brushes are appropriate. So there are many tools in Landshape, and brushes are ideal for situations where you don't need to be frightfully accurate, where a rough and ready sketch is good enough, or maybe you apply some smoothness, and it doesn't really matter that much exactly where the brush starts and it ends, so that you can sort of paint the area as you go. They're also good for artistic sketching and to make small fixes. Okay, and they complement the pick command. So brushes have this little ellipsis as its sub icon, and in that way you can recognize all the brushes from their icons. Pick tools have a small rhombus as their sub icon. We won't look at pick tools today, but using the pick tools together with brushes often makes for the best results, because you approach the problems from two different angles. So now let's look at the brushes one at a time, and I will today just look at them a bit, show them isolated, and I won't really do any real world examples. This will be quite synthetic, just to get a feel for what sort of shape or editing that each brush does. Okay, so let's go. The first brush is the grab brush, and as its name implies, it lets you grab the terrain, and you can click and hold and drag up, or click and hold and drag down. And that's it. And sometimes, as you can notice, there is a slight mismatch between the terrain and objects around it, for instance the skirt here, and if that happens you can just click here, rebuild view, and Landshape will rebuild the terrain for you. The next brush is the raise brush, and while it won't give you a pay raise, it will raise your terrain. So all you have to do is point and click like so, hover with your cursor above the terrain, and then the raise brush will help you raise your terrain. This can be good to build volume, like so. And if you do this repeatedly, so here's one plateau, and what we can do is we can let go of the button and do the same thing again. And then we get this sort of plateaus, this sort of stepped look, like so. Okay, so that's the raise brush. It's got a sibling in the sink brush. Let's turn off the skirt for a moment and let's try out sink brush, brush number 3. And it does the same thing, but in the opposite direction. So hold control to change the size. And here you can see we'll do a depression in the terrain like so. And if you hold the button clicked, it will stop at its maximum depth. Okay, so this one is at a depth of 6 meters. You can tell here in the VCB. And if I keep the button clicked, then it won't depress anything more than 6 meters. Now, if I let go of the button, now I let go, and I do another stroke. So in the second stroke, it will depress another 6 meters at the maximum. Okay. Now to understand the fourth brush, the level brush, let's import something. So we'll go Compfire, import, build, and we'll take this building over here and we'll place it up here, like so. Okay, there we go. So here we got something, and the level brush is very useful. It's one of the most useful brushes. If we run it here, it will create a completely level plateau. The raise and sink brushes that we just saw, they merely move things upwards or downwards. They don't do anything to the graininess or the local features. They merely bring the whole thing up and down. Whereas level brush forces everything under the cursor with fall off to a certain level. So let's look at that. And you can set the level by pressing Alt, and let's make the level there. Okay, so now you see this purple dot. That means that this is the level that will press the terrain to. And I run the brush like so. And what happens? Everything up here is in that level. Okay, it's super flat. Another example for the level brush is this. So over here, I've got an input. It's a single face and it's leaning a bit. It's tilted 12 degrees in red and green. I will form it like so. Okay, we've got something here. I will add a skirt just to give it some, understand the elevations a little bit better. And now we can use the level brush and sample anywhere in the model. For instance, over here, get the same plot or another plot. So I want a plateau over here that is the same on the same level. So we'll use the level brush and note the faint dotted line, which says that we are picking up a sampled elevation from somewhere else. Okay, that's the purple dot for you. Okay, so now we have created a plateau over here, and if we wish, we can take the same building, we can copy it like so, and put it over here. And these two will be on the very same level, like so. Okay, so we replicated a level from here to over here. Sometimes you get small artifacts like this, and this has nothing to do with the brushes per se. You can get rid of them by right-clicking, going Landshape, Prop, and Flip Jagged Diagonals, and you will see that these will disappear, like so. Note that the face count is the same before and after. This is before, and this is after. The face count is the same. Just flip the diagonals to get this smoothness. So the next two brushes are the bank brush and the slope brush. Sometimes they get confused, so let's look at them together and compare what they do. Bank brush says, what does it say? Well, you hover and it says flatten terrain along stroke direction, creating local embankment. Okay, so this can be good to prepare, e.g., a road. Let's try that. I'll run it. And maybe we'll go from, oh, that was very, very small. Let's make it a bit bigger, like so. 10 meters is fine. And we'll run it from here over to here. Okay. And you can see here that it did flatten terrain along the direction of the stroke. So it is as if we wanted to create an embankment for a road or some other feature in this direction. Now I undo this and I try the slope brush. So let's see how the slope brush fares. It's roughly the same diameter, and I'll go roughly the same direction from one way to the other. But you can see here how the result at first glance may look a bit similar, but it's not. Because what does the bank brush do? Well, it slants terrain to average local slope. So if the average local slope here is leaning towards the left, the result will lean towards the left. And if it's leaning towards the right, as up here, it will lean towards the right. But the bank brush didn't work like that. It created something that was straight, or tried to be straight in direction of the movement of the brush. And we can see this even clearer here. So for instance, if I run the slope brush here, since what the slope brush does is to average the result out to the local slope, and the local slope is about the same all over here, almost nothing happens, merely removes some of the minor noise. You see, it's as if I hadn't done anything at all. I'll undo that, and then we'll try the bank brush, and the bank brush will do something, because if I do go like this, now the brush will try to create something which is horizontal level in the direction of the brush travel, okay, which we can see very clearly here. If we add some skirt, you can see elevations even better. The next two brushes also belong together because they are each other's opposites. And I'm talking about the smooth brush and the noise brush. So they do what their names imply. If we have a situation like this and you wish to add a little extra smoothness to this rough terrain, for instance around the trees and the sanctuary, let's try that. So we'll run the smooth brush like so, and smoothen things out a little bit, like so. And then we can perhaps create a smooth path or something down here to this corner. Something like so. So what about the other brush, the noise brush? We can try it over here. So maybe we got this scenario where things are too smooth and we want to roughen stuff. So we can roughen stuff. And I recommend sometimes looking at things from above, and there's a button for that called View Top. Let's do that. And here we'll switch to the noise brush, and I'll show you another way of switching between brushes. So while you're in brushes, you can right click and go pick the brush you wish. And you can see that noise brush, mesh brush, and zone brush are together because they're area brushes and they work slightly differently. So let's say we want a noise over here. Here we can paint and see the area where things are supposed to happen, like so. You can feel that something will happen over there. You can start seeing and you don't the change, and you don't need to be all that fussy here. You can be a bit rough, and it doesn't matter if you paint outside the terrain. Landshape doesn't care. And note how we have a fall off here, and we can control the fall off via the VCB. So if I want the fall off to be 0, I can type semicolon 0, like so. And now we won't have this fall off, but I like this fall off. So maybe 5 meters or 20 meters. No, 10 was just right. Something like that. And then you can get this nice smooth transition between the slightly roughened parts and the non-roughened parts. The same goes for strength, of course. So if I up the strength from current 50 to 100, you can see things start happening. If I go over 100, you can go over 100, but then things will get not so very realistic. But you can sometimes use it for artistic effect. I'm fine with around 50, 60, like so. Okay, this is good. Enter to commit. And while we're at it, why not do something out of this? Maybe we can do a small canal or something like that. So we'll go back to the sync brush, and it's on 2.4 meters. That's all right. And maybe we can view this from the top again and go from here. And if I click Alt, I will toggle straight stroke. So like so, there's one. And the straight stroke must go on to over here, like so. And here we got some sort of canal-like feature. So if I turn on the skirt and give it some splashing, see what happens. And there's our canal. Now the ninth brush is the mesh brush, and what it does is that it allows you to control the density of the terrain mesh. So I click the mesh brush, and let's say I wish to add some more detail in this transition between the flatter part and the raised part. So I can look from it from any angle. Sometimes it's easier from above, and sometimes it's easier like this. So I'll make it a little bit smaller, 10 meters diameter, and the resolution here is 2 meters, so I need to use something else. Let's use 1 meter. Okay, and then I will draw like so around the transition. And here, as you can see, now I've added lots of detail here. And I enter to commit, and you can see that the face count has gone up. We can do the other way. So for instance, in this flat area, we don't need that much definition because nothing much happens there. So here we can do the opposite. We'll type 4 meters, and now we got a 4 meter resolution. And then we can take this area and we simply remove lots of faces to save on our polygon budget. Okay, so this was 4 meter, I commit, and here we got a multi-resolution plot. And finally, landscape lovers, now is the time to meet today's final brush, number 10, the zone brush. And what does the zone brush do? It creates zones, and a zone is a contiguous area with one material in the terrain. So to this end, I'll turn on my tag with some swatches, and if you want to get these swatches and lots of other items that you can use with terrain or other 3D modeling, you can get them for free if you download Landshape's sibling extension, Campfire, also available from Holygon.com. So let's use ZoneBrush in action. I will sample one of these, and if I hold Alt and hover above something, I can see the name of its material in a tooltip. And now I won't be very particular here. I will just do something rough and ready like so. Can go outside and Landshape will automatically fill in something like this. This is just fine. I will sample the next material and try with that and see how this can look. So we get some sort of transition between the flat part and the raised part like so. Something like this could work. So here we are, something like this. And now I want to fill the lower part with, say, this material, loam. Okay, and you don't need to be very particular about in this example at least, the exact nature of the boundary. I'll just do something nice and easy like so. And to connect these, I can go outside, that's no problem. So, and Landshape can fill it in for you. And we commit, and we get something like this. And if we turn on some tags with trees and build, we get this little scene. And this, landscape lovers, wraps up our meeting with Landshape's 10 brushes. If you enjoy these videos, remember to like, comment and subscribe. And if you want to try out Landshape yourself, then head over to holygon.com, where you can read more about Landshape and its sibling extensions. To order, visit shop.holygon.com, where you can find Landshape and its siblings extensions. You can try free, start light, or go pro. Landshape lovers, thank you very much.